All right. Here we are, back with another episode of the Pumped On Property Show. How are we feeling this morning, bro?
I'm actually feeling pumped.
Yeah,
I'm
seriously.
actually feeling amazing this morning, considering not the greatest night's sleep of my life last night.
You never know, hey.
You never know. I woke up, we went for a little surf, and I was feeling a bit flat, and I'm just had this big emotional letdown, and now I'm feeling 1,000%.
I love it. Yeah, it was beautiful out there this morning, though, eh? It was just
good.
I had some of my own issues in my head that I was working through this morning because I was a bit sore and my back was hurting a bit, but I'm just why the hell are you complaining right now? Why are you trying to find an excuse to be negative right now? It's the morning, the sun's rising, the surf's pumping, out with your brother and a couple of epic old legends and just enjoying it. But yeah, it doesn't take long, 30 minutes out in the surf and all of your shit's gone and then you just feel like you're in flow state, eh?
I'll tell you what, surfing Watala where there's a whole bunch of good surfers all the time versus Maroochydore, I'm going to be surfing Maroochydore way more because you pretty much get it anyway.
Suits our skill level a bit better.
It's just no one's dropping in on you.
Yeah, everyone's having fun.
Yeah, everyone's having fun.
You can actually do a turn.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, it was really good. In today's episode, we want to talk, it's probably going to be a bit more of an interview style, a bit more about property investing whilst raising a family, because most of our listeners, I know, are parents that have some young ones, anywhere from 0 to 15, whatever it might be. And obviously, you've done the bulk of your property investing whilst raising 3 young ones as well.
Yeah.
And it's challenging, right? Because kids are expensive and they require a lot of time. And to take that risk can be really scary while raising a family, I would imagine.
Without a doubt. And, for a lot of us, my wife went back to work part-time after our first summer and our second Harper. And then she hasn't gone back since Harper was born, and that was 6 years ago. So a lot of people are out there on one income as well, and that can be scary, and it can kind of put a lot of pressure on the income earner or the breadwinner. So yeah, it's a full-on time, but if you can do it, you can be financially free by the time the kids finish high school, and who doesn't want that? What I mean?
Yeah, and that's what we've always talked about as well. It's getting those choices sooner so that you can spend more time with your kids. That's 100% why you've invested, why you are, why you've got the business, why we've got the channel, because you want to create a better life and better choices for your kids and be able to spend more time with them, which is I feel as though that should be everybody's goal.
Yeah, I feel every single parent watching this or listening to this feels that way. I feel there's this massive amount of dad or mum guilt, we call it, and it's just, you want to be the best version of yourself, and you're trading your time for money, which we all are at this stage where we, are working our way to financial freedom. And it's kind of it's I call it twisting. It's kind of you're working your ass off to look after them and provide for them and make a better life, but you're also working your ass off and you're missing parts of that life for them. I was talking to my daughter Harper the other day. She she won her little cross country, which blew me away because my eldest daughter is such an athlete looking thing. And then my second, I never thought she was, but she's actually the one just crushing it at all the carnivals at school now.
She's just so great. Both of them are.
And she's not competitive. She's just Dad, I just went out there and I ran and I just kept trying. And I'm no matter how much my lungs were burning or my legs were hurting, I'm you're not going to stop because that's what we do in our family. We just keep going.
She is just amazing. She's the epitome of living presently, eh?
She's just it, man. She's so in the pocket. But she said to me, she's oh, I really wish you were there. And I'm firstly, I didn't even know it was on. So I'm okay, get on with it. Get into the game, Dad. Figure out when these key things that are important. But I just was fuck, I missed it.
I remember growing up as a kid and our dad was running his own business and it was quite successful as well. But he was never there at those special events, the swimming carnivals, the cross countries, those school events. He was never there. Fortunately, he was for soccer, and that was so amazing to have him coaching us all the way while we were growing up and getting him to see lead all the other boys and stuff. It was mad. But at the same time, kids think about that, right? Kids remember whether or not their parents are there, and that That's the only person in the audience that you'd want to see as a kid, is like your mum or dad's smile in the crowd.
Completely. So it's like, I suppose, I don't know why I was getting to that point, but it's like investing with a family is challenging.
Of course.
It's scary. There's a single income. There's a lot on the line. Like, you're taking your money and you're hoping to make the right and smartest financial decision possible, because it's like, for most of us, like myself included, I've said this so many times before, like, I just want a small number of really high quality properties, which I now have. And, you know, I keep kicking that goal down the line as well, which is something that I've got to work on for myself.
Welcome to being human, right?
I love this shit. Like, I love buying a property as much as I like doing anything else. But it's like, there's a lot of that comes with it too. It's like, not only am I trading my time away, but I'm choosing to take a big chunk of the family money in equity or cash, and I'm putting it into an investment. And you want that investment to work out, because it's like, if it doesn't work out, it stretches the gap even further away from everything you're doing this for. And that's, you know, that's scary. Like, most of my good friends aren't considering it. They've all bought their own home. A couple of the boys that I grew up with have got 2 to 4 properties. But for most people, it's just like, get to 30, you know, for most Sydney and Melbourne people, this is. For people in Queensland and around Australia, they do it a bit earlier. But like, in Sydney and Melbourne, it's like, have fun to 30, start building a career, maybe find a partner. And then 30 to 35, maybe start to have some kids and get your home.
Save up some money.
And then it's like, don't even think about it until the kids are in high school again. And it's like, by missing that, and no disrespect at all, like Simon and I both started early, but by missing that investing in your 20s, 30s and early 40s, it just means that it's going to take 15 years to get there. If you're starting at 45, at absolute security at 60 is gold, but financial freedom at 45, 50, 55, 60 is even better.
The reality is, you're trading 40 hours on average away from your family every single week.
Plus getting ready, plus commute times, plus the thought of work.
The stress that you bring home and everything like that, the baggage, of course. So, like, that's going to be happening regardless. And, you know, I guess one tangent we can go off on is like, you know, this is important to kind of free up those choices a little bit earlier, if that's what you want. Even if it's just like through a super conservative strategy. You know, we've talked about our 2 properties to financial freedom strategy, which can allow people putting down a decent deposit to replace 20 to 30K worth of income immediately. Like, that's
on today's interest rates, interest only.
Yeah, true that. So that's like 1 to 2 days a week of work that you can take off and be there throughout the journey. But I think what's more important than the choices is like actually making a smarter decision. And like, that's what we have this channel for, is to try and educate people to make smarter investment decisions. But you know, if you're going to do it and if you're going to take the risk, then make it the right one and do the rounds, do the work to kind of make sure that you are focusing on the right asset class, on the right market, on the right type of property at the right time, so that, you know, we're going to be taking that risk. You know, you don't just want to go out there and do what feels comfortable or what feels right at any given time, because that might not be the right option. So you've got to kind of dive a little bit deeper and look at it from a bigger picture perspective and go, okay, well, look, why am I doing this? And it's because I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to be at the cross-country carnivals. I want to be at the swimming carnival. I want to be at the grand finals. I want to be there, right? Like,
and you're still a human that wants to succeed and, you know,
get
ahead and live with purpose and be the provider and look after your family. Like, there's still identity and ego attached to helping and living a larger life as well. Like, you know what I mean? Which
is obviously equally as important as well. Like, we are individuals living an individual experience. So like, it's equally as important to find that purpose and passion and live it so that you can have a fulfilling, happy life.
Completely. Like, I think I'm almost always exhausted since the day I had my first kid. Like, I don't want to be, because I'm like I've got more energy than most and I look after myself. But it's like, the reality is, as parents, like, your sleep's being disrupted and, you know, your values are being twisted and you're not just living for yourself anymore. You're actually completely living for other people and of service to them. So it's like, I think one of the major challenges we face as parents is making the time for another thing especially when that thing's uncomfortable, scary, and fearful. And so it's like, what I would recommend is like the first thing we actually talk about today, like is making that time. If your partner's not into it, stop trying to pull them along the journey. Like my Lisa's just not into investing, but she's absolutely into adding value to properties that I've bought once I've invested in them. So if you're into the numbers, into the research, into the learning, absolutely love it and look after your family because you're protecting them.
Yeah.
And then if your partner's interested in making it look pretty and having some fun, or just making it easy after, like just let them do that. Like get off your partner's ass first and foremost. But it's like making the time. It doesn't have to be much. Like you could literally look at our channel and once a week pick one video. And just that consistently per week for a couple of years is 100 videos.
Yeah, and find that thing that aligns more with your personality and your values as well. And that might not be residential property investing like it is for us. You know, it could be trading the stock market or crypto or investing in commercial real estate. Like
flipping businesses on the side, whatever that looks like.
Flipping houses, whatever it is. Like just find that thing that isn't as fatiguing for you, right? Like that's what you've done. You found your avenue and you focus on the avenue. And I think that's really important because then you're not wasting your time focusing on things that aren't going to do anything for you anyway.
Completely.
And you just focus on the one thing and it just like you get that tunnel vision, right? And you just get completely clear on what needs to be done, what the next step's going to be, how this is going to link to my longer term vision. And, you know, when you are twisted, having something that is more in line with who you are as a person is going to make it easier to straighten back out.
Completely, bro. Like I think people so underestimate that, especially parents, with what you just said. Like it is cool to be like a Renaissance person, like male or female, that is interested in more than just their kids, just their career, just their health. Like property to me is so much fun. And it's not going to be it wasn't at the start. It was how the fuck can I get financially free as quickly as I can? Property seemed like the simplest way. I'm all in. But slowly over the years, I love building it. I love renovating it now, even though it's stressful. Like I love sending my manager an email at the start of the year, which is the only email throughout the year unless there's maintenance, which sucks. But it's like, this is our goal for the year. This is what we're working on. Like I love sitting down with my accountant now and seeing a property that was 15 grand that year positively geared, but because of the tax benefits that the government gives us is neutral. So I've like put 15 grand in the pocket. Like I love those things. And I think by finding the joy, and if you're listening to this channel, obviously property's starting to feel like that for you. Like it can be incredibly exciting as a parent that is sort of in the drudgery of like, you can't go out at night as often anymore. Like you can't just leave it a whim and be free and live all those freedom values that you live. Like you can't just walk away from your job because you've got a commitment and a responsibility. Like it's like, and so it's like this thing of property can become not just like a way out financially, but something exciting that is different. And the second thing I really recommend doing as a family is sitting down and checking in together. You know, it doesn't have to be often. Like the Barefoot Investor in his book, what's he say? Like have a financial dinner once a month or something? Like
I think he says start once a week and then, you know, it'll become a little bit less than that. But it's more so like the Barefoot idea is like just creating the space to have that open conversation, because you can't have that conversation while, you know, mum or dad's making dinner and the kids are running around. You know, you can't have that time where you can think freely and you know, start to plan for that. So the whole idea behind that is just, you know, creating the space to open the conversation up a little bit more.
And I love that concept. Like for me, weekly sounds like a chore, but doing it twice a year and going, hey, like we're here, we want to be there, like what's our next step? And that's all it has to be. Like, is the next step to save, release some equity, or go and buy? And then is it the right time to buy or is it the wrong time to buy? And it doesn't have to be much more complicated than that. Yeah. I like doing it like pretty frequently just because my mind bounces around like a bloody pinball machine sometimes. Like, idea. Well, I went in the goal.
But like, I do it a lot, but like, fortunately, my partner Tay, she's like very grounding, and she's just like, whoa, 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 settle down. We've got our idea, we've got our strategy. Let's just focus on that, and then we'll worry about the next thing next. But
for sure,
like, we always make sure that we create that time, and that's not a conversation that's just brought up spur of the moment, popped into the head. It's like, okay, you know, sitting down, it's a Sunday arvo, you know, maybe have a glass of wine and a beer or something like that, and we'll get out a piece of paper and we'll, you know, put everything down, you know, where we're at, how far along we are on the journey, what's next, what do we need to plan for, what do we need a budget for, and then, yeah, it's literally as simple as like, okay, I'm in a position to do something, or I'm in saving mode.
Yeah, 100%. It really, I used to overcomplicate it so big time, and I used to put so much pressure on myself to achieve these things. And now it's just, I'm either ready or I'm not. And ready doesn't mean financially. Like, I was ready to borrow money about 9 months ago. I hadn't been able to borrow money for a while before that. And I was just like, I wasn't mentally ready. Like, I was a bit exhausted from my life, from the business, from work, from training, from looking after so many people's lives. Like, I was just like, I just need a bit of space to figure out what's next. And that's completely cool
Equally
as well.
as important.
You know, one of my best friends and one of Simon's good friends, he's in the pharmaceutical industry, and he really doesn't like being there. Like, it's just not for him, and I get it for him.
Yeah, he's a super forward-thinking bloke, and you know, he has some amazing ideas. He's all about health and longevity as well.
For sure.
Best-looking 38-year-old guy I've ever seen in my life.
Like, he's in incredibly good shape because he's always looked after himself. But he grew up in a household, right, that money was like really tricky to come by. A single mum.
Yes.
And so he's got this beautiful home a couple of doors away from our favorite beach, and he's like absolutely busting his ass to pay it off, and he's almost there. Like, he's 3 years away, he reckons.
Wow, good on him.
But he's, you know, over the same time that him and I have been, like, he finished uni before I even started it, and so he was like already sort of doing his thing. But it's like, I've confronted my fear, and he said to me in the spa last week, he's like, you've got a higher risk profile. And I said, I don't think I do. It's just, I obsess about investing in property. And because I understand it, like a lot of you guys are really getting it now.
Yeah.
It doesn't become as scary anymore. And so for him, I'm like, if you don't like what you're doing, but you're too scared, and no disrespect, but it is fear that stops people doing stuff. It's nothing else, because the information's out there and the partners are out there if you're looking to find them or pay for them. It's like, not only, you know, not leading by example with your kids and showing them like, hey, like, I can get out of this, it can be done, but you're also like choosing to stay in something you don't enjoy because of the fear of stepping out of that. It's like, investing is scary, but what is more scary to me is seeing him spend the next 5 years paying off his home, getting the confidence a few years after that to buying in at top of a market cycle, and then not getting any meaningful gains for the 10 years after that, where he's looking to buy it, and just getting to 50, 60, and just at that point going, shit, I've really got to turn something on.
It's time to go. And
he's in such a better position than most people. Like, he's got incredible income. His wife's got great income. They're going to have great super. He's going to have this $2 million, $3 million asset by retirement, which is his own home. But it's like,
and some.
It doesn't take much to make a little bit of time to check in with your partner and create a plan, and then take action slowly. If you're like the biggest, like if you're just super scared, like take 12 months to figure it all out. Like, you don't have to do something straight away, but
100%.
Figure it out, take the action, and change the life for the better.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be right now, but it should be a part of the plan, because the alternative is exactly what you just said. Not doing anything until you get to a point, which will come, where you're like, shit, now I need to figure it all out in 5 to 10 years. And then it's just never going to happen.
That's risk when that happens.
That's way risky. Or it's like, okay, well, let's just start with the idea. Then let's start educating ourselves slowly. There's amazing books out there. There's amazing podcasts, YouTube channels. You know, you can contact financial advisors, buyer's agents for strategy sessions. There's so many resources that you can leverage off. Learn, spend 6, 12, 18 months learning while you are building that deposit, or while you are getting those buffers in place that are going to give you the confidence that you need. And then if you're a risk-averse person, make sure it's a low-risk strategy.
Yeah.
You know, don't go buy $1 million property and that's negative cash flow, because that's going to put so much undue pressure on yourself and the family. It's like, let's go do something that, okay, look, this is only going to cost me $80,000 of my own money. And of that, I'm then only going to have $320,000 worth of debt, but I'm going to have about $450 a week of rental income. You know, learn to time and buy into the right markets at the right time so that you're on the right side of the coin.
You know, I literally bought a couple of properties 2 weeks ago, and Simon bought one. When was the last one? Like a couple of months ago?
Yeah,
3 months ago?
It's been a blur this year. I
Yeah,
think it
I
was
don't
like
know.
April or May.
It's just like, because I know that the suburbs that I'm buying in haven't performed to the level that they can, it gave me confidence. Like, normally I'd have a massive meltdown, and maybe I have been actually, maybe that's where the meltdown's been coming from.
I don't know, you seem super chill the last couple of weeks.
But it's like, I just think about that, and I'm like, a lot of people think about the risk of taking action, but I think about the impact for me and my family if I don't.
Yeah, I love that so much.
Like, what if I sat down, I was reading the happiness trap the other day, and I think, did I send you the little snippet?
Yeah,
just
you
about
did.
The values bit?
Yeah.
It's like, the question was like, I am 80 years of age today. I am grateful for this. I am 80 years today. I would have changed this earlier.
Yeah.
And it's like, it really made me recognize that the impact of me not taking action is me not becoming the best version of myself in this lifetime. And it's like, I truly believe that I'll get another lifetime, but just in case I don't, like, I want to help people, and I want to help myself, and I do want to be here with my kids, and I do want to drop them to school some days, and I want to some days come home just after they finish, and even some weeks I want to be at home like for 2 or 3 days for them that aren't the weekends. Like, I want those choices, not because I'm lazy or because I'm just seeking happiness, but because by creating that space, I know that the gaps like will just be filled with the things that I'm supposed to be spending my time doing.
And it's leading by example in both ways. It's like, you can lead by example and just work your job from whenever you start to 65, 70 years of age, and then live off your super and have your home owned outright.
Which will work.
You can do that, yeah. That's a fine way to do things, but you're probably not going to be able to, you know, drop your kids to school and pick them up. You're probably not going to be able to get those chances because, you know, if you've got a good boss, you might only be getting 4 or 5 weeks off work a year. So you don't have that freedom. So what I was trying to get at there is like, I completely forget. I saw this kookaburra outside just demolishing a worm, and I'm like, whoa, that's cool. And I was like trying to subway a mosquito. There's something going on. But like, that's one choice, but leading by example, by choosing to learn how to invest, choosing how to make tough decisions, freeing up that time. It's leading by example so that you can show your kids, hey, there is a different way to the way that we've been taught. You don't have to do what is normal, because if you want to have an abnormal life, sometimes you've got to do abnormal things. And, you know, I think of 2 people that we've worked with recently, Andrew and Fee Ross and Nick and Mara Jones recently. And these are families, you know, they're only getting started in their 40s and their 40s. I think Andrew and Fee are in their late 40s or 50s. And what they're doing is like, they've finally got themselves into a position where they are comfortable. And they're setting realistic longer term goals. You know, they're not like, I want to do this in 5 years or 10 years. They're setting like a longer term 15-year plan. But the whole intention is to go, okay, look, we've realized that we probably could have got started earlier. We probably should have got started earlier, but we didn't. But what we want to do is actually execute this, work towards something, not for themselves, less for themselves, but more for their kids, to show their kids that there's a different way, to show their kids that it can be done. If there's a will, there's a way. And I fucking love it. Like, Nick and Mara have just bought 2 investment properties. They've got 2 granny flats on the run. They're about to buy their dream home.
So awesome.
All in like a 3-year period, because they've worked their ass off for the last 20 getting themselves into this position. same as Andrew and Fee, on their first property, about to start for their second property, got their amazing home in Sydney. And, you know...
Is Andrew coming back around?
Yeah, he's already back.
Led.
Yeah, you'll be having a session with him in the next few weeks. But like they've taken control of their own lives, and they've, you know, overcome their own insecurities and their own barriers, and they've done what needed to be done. And now both of them are going to be super successful by the time they're ready to retire, and they're setting up their family for that generational wealth that's just going to be passed on for years, for centuries, hopefully.
I love that. Like, one of the things that I've noticed now that my kids are at school age, right, is there's a time in your life where learning doesn't feel hard. And I've just fully remembered this, because I'm really fortunate that, and same as you, man, like I just enjoy learning new stuff. Like I just constantly have always seeked learning stuff. And when I learn, like I don't just pick 10 things. I'm like all in to the point where I go a tiny bit further than most people would, because I'm like only spend my time learning stuff that actually interests me. It's like business stuff, financial stuff, property stuff, like health, like how to like have a quiet mind, you know what I mean? Yeah. Psychology and spirituality are the things that are interesting me most at the moment. But it's like
the list could go on.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I enjoy doing. But normally I'm like all in on that thing for a couple of months, and then it's like, cool, I kind of get enough about that and I've applied it, and now it's like the next little thing. But where I've like busted as well, where I was going to be really good as well.
Maybe it'll come back around in due time.
Yeah, maybe it will, maybe it won't.
But like how, I guess if you had like one word of advice for parents that are just getting started or have their home and maybe one investment property, but they can see that that's not going to get them to where they would be, like what would it be?
Can I come back to that, because I've remembered this other thing?
Perfect.
But that's like
that was a bridge.
That's the right question.
We're good at doing that, trying to find each other a bit of a bridge just to let the little pathway start firing again.
I've forgotten it again.
Oh, you're crazy.
Nah, what I was getting to, I do remember it. I just wanted to take the edge off. Is like, there is a time in your life where everyone enjoys learning. Like my kids have been rushing home to like do maths. Like,
wow,
I don't know. Like,
I wasn't doing that at that age.
Just because it's like, it's fun for them and they're starting to get it. Or like each night, you know, we like would read a book with them or whatever, but now they're like reading books to each other and they're sort of like helping each other. And it's just, we've got to remember that like once we were our kids and there weren't all these barriers, it was just like, cool, I'm going to pick up the guitar.
Just
or
do.
You think about this, like at one point you learnt how to speak 40,000 words of English, like the hardest language in the world. At one point you learnt to write. At one point you did know how to do algebra. Like it.
Yeah, drive.
Another point, like most of you have learned a second language, drive, play instruments, like do sports, move the body. And it's like, and then the big things are just happening anyway. Like you don't have to be conscious about your body working. It's just working. And it's
a beautiful thing about being a human, right? Like it's
crazy.
Just what we want, like innate. Like it's an innate feeling that like it just happens.
Yeah. So it's like just like you can learn how to invest, which is so fucking simple. It's crazy. Like I could do a 10-minute video which would tell you everything you ever needed to think about investing, and you could shut the book on it and you could be ultra successful. But the only reason I can do the 10-minute video is because I've put in the 15,000 hours now on this thing. It's like, I just want you to remember that you can learn anything, you can change anything, you can plan anything, and you can make the time in your life and prioritize this, not for yourself, but for the person that you're supposed to be and the kids.
I love that.
But yeah, like the number one thing, man. What was the question again?
Like, what would the number one piece of advice? I think you just answered it. It's taking action, doing it.
Making the time and taking action and realizing it's possible. Like if it was possible for me. When I had my first daughter, I went from earning like over 200 grand a year to a $45,000 job. Yeah. And we still saved enough money in a year and a half to go buy a cheap property.
Yeah. When I first started, I was earning like 60 grand a year and managed to save 2 deposits to buy 2 houses in 18 months. Like I didn't have dependents, and that made it a hell of a lot easier. But like it was a very, very low income base at the time, but it was the action, the devotion to learning and understanding how to overcome my own challenges, my own barriers, and, you know, trying to stop those mental blockages that are overcomplicating things, or, you know, putting you into that fear mindset, and just learning more about who you are as a person, how you make decisions and why you make decisions that way definitely helps.
You know, I was talking to one of the boys at work, whose mum does a lot of energy work and healing stuff, and he was talking about like two different versions of the nervous system. One of them's like very fight or flight, and one of them's very just in flow, like you're just doing your thing. And he talked about it's so easy to get triggered back into that. And for many people that haven't already invested or have only got one or two investments and a home, property can be that trigger. And so it's not property that's scary, it's the unconscious emotional change in your body every time it's putting you, like, it's not seeing a difference between the property and the bed for a lot of people, but 99% of people would be operating without even understanding that it's triggering past stuff that's creating an emotional reaction in the body that's everything inside you is telling you to run, but your logical brain's like, no, like,
I can do this.
And it's like, it's a funny thing. And so it's like what I've been really learning to do in the last 3 years is like, despite those feelings that come up and the emotions, like I've just got these things that I do with my brain. It's like I'm having the thought that I'm scared right now.
Yeah.
I'm not scared right now. My brain is having a thought that I'm scared. I'm feeling like uncomfortable in my body right now. I'm feeling like the emotions, or my body's having the emotion of fear right now. It's having the like chemical reaction of adrenaline and cortisol and adrenal. But it's like, that's not who I am. Like,
no.
And that doesn't have to prohibit me. Like I get those waves big time because like my personality type is much more fight or flight than the average person, like being a bit intense, like a lot of us are. And it's like, if I just acknowledge that buying shit scares the crap out of me because it's scary getting into debt, because it's risk and change, and it's putting me in that uncomfortable edge with nowhere to go on my back fully up against the wall. But that feeling passes, and the combination of smart decisions like you've made, like far out. Simon's like literally gone from scratch, finishing university, to 4 properties in 3.5, 4 years, and completely changed his life.
It was the fear of not being able to provide for my unborn kids, like that made me want to do all of that. Like, it wasn't to be successful, it was to be free, to have choices, and to be able to provide for my kids. And I'm so grateful for that.
How much less pressure is there now for you? Like, I know
there's no pressure.
It's like you're fully set up. You're already working towards 4 days a week. Some weeks working 4 days. You can take
the 5th day is a choice.
It's a full choice, and it's like, imagine, you know, kids come. There's no rushing around, need to go buy some stuff. No. There's no like, hey, I should go to work 5 days a week because I need to do this or that. It's like, all it is now is just stacking the chips for the rainy day and, you know, protecting the downside.
Yeah. I love that, like, all of these conversations are so different to like some of the other narrators that you hear out there, because like all of this stuff comes back to the mind and decision making. Like, it really does. And, you know, we've spent so much time learning about it. You know, you've got your personal trainer, Zach, to help. And I've got, like, you know, people like Aubrey Marcus and
Aubrey's the bomb.
Yeah. So, like, I really leverage off, you know, podcasts to get that sort of research. Yeah.
How crazy that, like, you can literally like.
Yeah. Like, every night I listen to some sort of guy talking about mindfulness, and like that makes it all easier, because it's all a choice. It's all a decision, especially here in Australia. If you're listening to this podcast, it's a choice. It really is. And, you know, you just got to try and find the mental blockages to overcome, to continue moving forward. And, you know, I hope everybody out there finds that confidence or develops a plan and just goes out there and gets it, eh?
You can get it.
You can get it.
You can absolutely get it, man. Like, if we could figure it out, like literally starting from scratch.
Yeah, our parents were the average person. They worked, invested in super, paid off their home. You know, our mum's about to buy her first investment property at 56, 57.
Yeah, like
You know?
Dad's hasn't bought an investment, but he's got a really cool business, and it's like, but I know, like, he's just signed a lease at 66. He'll be 71 when it finishes for his business, for his factory, and it's like, I fully get it because we need purpose, and he helps so many people, his clients and his staff. Like,
Yeah.
I know he cares so much, but it's like, it's also nice at particularly those later stages of life where your health is still really good to like enjoy that. You know what I mean? Like that time, 40 hours a week at 70, it's like I know I want to be helping and contributing, but I don't want to be working 40 hours a week at that time because I want to be getting the like last best bits out of like going surfing, training, yoga,
like there's
traveling, right?
Our bodies have an expiration date for sure. This life has an expiration date, so you might as well go out there and do what you want to do while you do have like the energy, the choice to do it all, right? So
the most confronting thing that I saw recently was, like I was saying to you, like Ryan Holiday, who wrote the Daily Stoic on Instagram, and his wrote "Stillness is the Key," which I recommend to everyone, and "Ego is the Way," or whatever it's called, some version of that. But he's provided this poster, right, and it's got every single week of your life up until you're 80, and then it's got like sort of grayed out from 80 to 100, and it's like, it just really stunned me. Like, I definitely didn't order it because it's just so much more mortality in your face. But it's like, I looked at his versions of it, and it was like there was a version of 35, and like a really, really, really fucking good chunk of those weeks had been crossed out. Now, I'm like a massive believer that I'm going to live a long, healthy, happy life because I've got so much purpose on this earth, and I need to like continue to fulfill that for me personally. Like, I have a very strong why to be here, and I feel like I want to have a really meaningful impact on a lot of young people's lives in the future. But it's like, it was fucking really confronting, man. Like, and I didn't really start to think about this until recently. Like, I'll be 50 in 14 years. Like, that's a wild thing. Like, you know, my dad is 65, and he would absolutely hammer the crap out of both of us fitness wise. Like, he is so healthy. And that's really inspiring, but it's also like, you know, I just keep coming back to this Morgan Freeman thing, like, get busy living.
Yeah, get busy living, eh?
Get busy living, man. Like,
you might only get one opportunity.
The biggest thing that I've learned recently is you are absolutely going to find enlightenment before you die.
Yeah.
Absolutely every person finds their peace before they die. Whether it is just surrendering to the fact that death is there, and so if everyone's going to find it, I've fully made the decision that
it will come when it needs to come.
It's going to come earlier for me.
Yeah.
And in a positive way. Like, and I think the same thing financially. Every single person is going to get to a point where the motivation to do something is strong enough to act. It's like, financially, you're close enough to the pension and the reality of that to do some shit. It's like, why not just make a choice that, hey, I want to figure out something easier than that? No, I'm so sorry, guys. We've just found out that we've had like a major audio dropout for like the last 8 minutes of this podcast. So I'm so sorry that the sound quality hasn't been as high. And we might just end it there because I don't think it's going to get better.
No, it certainly won't. There's a house being built just over in the background here, so it's a little bit noisier. But
last 10 minutes, I hope you guys could hear some of that because there was a little bit of cool stuff in there. But like, we just want the best for you and for your family and for your future self. So, you know, get that fairy bread there.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty.